Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 2nd Feb. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu are too many because the budget was announced. So we are covering up all the articles which have come up with respect to the budget in gist of it. Then other articles which have come up as well. So first of all, understanding what is budget. So budget comes from a French word budget, which actually means a leather bag or wallet. So that was used by the French minister then centuries ago to give the explanation of the budgeting of the government, that is the receipts and the expenditure for the coming financial year. So how would the government, what is expectations, what would be the receipts, and how would it is planning to spend it. So that is the budgeting process which takes place annually. So this is the budget for the financial year 2017-18, which would start from 1st of April. So that is the budget. So that has been preponed this year. So every year it is announced on the last working day of Feb, but this year it has been announced on 1st of Feb itself. So the entire process has been preponed so that the entire budgeting. So budget is actually a procedure part of the constitution too. In constitution, the term used is annual financial statement. So this annual financial statement under Article 112 of the Constitution comprises of two bills which have to be passed. So this is the finance bill and the appropriation bill. So finance, how will the finance come in, and the appropriation, how would it be done? So there is something called financial bill 2, financial bill 1, financial bill 2 and money bill. So those are the bills which are different. This budgeting bill is called finance bill. So it's different from the financial bill. So finance bill and money bill, finance bill and appropriation bill, these are the two bills together passed. Once both of these are passed, means the budget has been passed by the parliament. So the preponing of the budget has taken place because by the time the financial year commences, that is 1st April, the budget is not actually passed because it takes time. Now the budget has been announced. Now the parliament will look into it. There will be discussions on it. The various provisions would be discussed, and then voting would take place. It would be referred to the parliamentary committee. Voting would take place. So it's a huge long process which goes on, after which the parliament passes the two bills and the budget stands passed, the appropriation bill and the finance bill. So this takes place, goes on beyond 1st April. So that is why then there is a requirement that how would the ministries function, because without the budget being passed, what has been allocated for the last financial year, that ends 31st March, done. You don't have that money with you anymore. So that is how the budgeting is done. So then it is generally seen there's something called March rush too, that the ministries spend a lot in the month of March, because what has been allocated to them, if they have not been spending on various schemes, programs, then they would not have that money with them anymore. So that's why that's something, this March rush also takes place. So from 1st April, the ministries need funding for their day-to-day functioning, for the ministries, the functions, programs to go on. So that is why money is allocated to them. This is called vote on account. So that is money for 2 months time frame. Whatever has been planned in the budget, 1/6 of it for 2 months. So that is allocated, that is vote on account. So that is passed initially. So this kind of process need not be required if the budget is already passed. So that is why this change has taken place. This colonial practice of announcing the budget in last working day of Feb and then it goes on and vote on account is required, this all can be changed if the budget is announced a little early. So that is the reform which is being tried to be implemented now. Another thing which has happened in this budget is this is the first budget which has the general budget including the railway budget. So no separate railway budget would be there since 1924. Again, a colonial legacy that we had a separate railway budget, but now it is not required because at that point of time, in colonial times, railways was a very important ministry. Its revenues far exceeded the general revenue. So that is why there was a need to keep it separate, have its finances handled separately. But now that is not the case. Even at the time of independence, it is said that the general budget was lesser than the revenue budget, means the railway budget, means railway budget was 6% more approximately than the general budget too, the finances, the revenues coming in. But then over the years, it has reduced drastically. In 1970s, 80s too, it is said it was around 30%. Now it is around 11%. Means general budget financing and the railway budget finance. So finance of railway budget is only 11% of the general budget. Means now general budget has become much larger and railway budget is a small small part compared to it. So now it makes sense that the railway budget be merged into the general budget. We have seen that the government budgetary support is provided, GBS is provided. So then the dividend has to be paid by the railways to the government. All that was the system. And then dividend, it becomes difficult for the railways to pay the dividend. So there is no need for it to act as a separate entity and have its separate budget. Rather, it makes sense that the railway budget be merged with the general budget. So that is another reform which has been implemented in this year. So now looking at the components of the budget, so yes, there'll be receipts and expenditure. Receipts, expenditure also segregated. One is revenue side and the capital side. So revenue means day to day in this financial year, current year revenue, the receipts, expenditures which are required. Capital are long-term receipts and expenditures, like something coming from disinvestment, which is not an annual feature, assured annual feature, or something like loans being repaid which have been given years ago or something. So then there can be capital receipts too, and of course loans which the government has to repay. So all such things fall in capital receipts and expenditure side. So that is capital budget and revenue budget, those two sides to it. Revenue receipts would be tax and non-tax receipts. Then even expenditure would be plan and non-plan expenditure. So this plan and non-plan expenditure distinction is also sought to be eliminated. So there will be no more distinction between plan and non-plan expenditure. What it actually meant is, plan expenditure means some scheme program planned and then expenditure has been taking place, and non-plan expenditure meant spending on everything which is a regular feature. Like you have to pay salaries to the employees, you have to pay interest on the loans which you have taken, which is a regular interest, has to be paid every month, every year. So that interest and all these which are non-planned expenditures which have to be undertaken. So that is the distinction. So now at a plan that there is no more need for this distinction. Anyway, planning commission has also been abolished. So they are going ahead with eliminating this distinction too. Then on the capital side, you have capital receipts and expenditure. So capital receipts would be receipts coming from disinvestment and such things, loans repaid. And capital expenditure, again, plan, non-plan expenditure would be there. So that would be again means the expenditure which is planned out, that a particular program has to be implemented, a long-term infrastructure development program or something, and expenditure is taking place. So here you can see non-plan expenditure. The two more important components of revenue expenditure covers a vast range of general, economic and social services of the government. The main items of non-plan expenditure are interest payments, defense services, subsidies provided, salaries provided to the government employees, pensions provided. So those are non-plan. You don't need to plan. You have to make that expenditure anyway. Then the budget, again, it is shown in detail, revenue receipts and capital receipts in detail. So capital receipts, you can see recovery of loans, disinvestment, borrowings which are coming forth, provident fund money. So all that is capital receipts. Now looking at the budget, this year's budget 2017. So the important points in the budget are listed down here first. So first of all, there is a change in the personal income tax slab. So a rate of 5% has been planned out for 2.5 lakh to 5 lakh income tax slab. So this was earlier 10%. It has been brought down to 5% with the idea that more people would come into the income tax net. They would file their returns because the taxation has reduced. So this is one change. So then to offset this revenue loss, additional 10% surcharge has been levied. So this is for income tax slab 50 lakh to 1 crore. So apart from the tax which has been paid, a surcharge is also paid on the taxation. So that is a 10% surcharge. Already there was a 15% surcharge on the next slab, that is 1 crore up. So this 15% surcharge would continue, and this surcharge has also been included this year. Then the existing rebate which is provided on the earnings, so that rebate will also be reduced now for the 5 lakh less income tax slab. So that would be 2,500, and above that it would be, so that would also be from 3.5 lakh to 5 lakh income tax rebate would be provided. And other existing categories have 12,000 per person rebate, which should continue. The second point is corporate tax has been reduced from medium and small enterprises. So this with small enterprises with an annual turnover up to rupees 50 crore. So they will have to pay 25% corporate tax rather than 30%. So for others, corporate tax remains 30%. No changes have taken place. Then third is, this is regarding small and medium enterprises only, that around 6.67 lakh companies would benefit. So that is 96% of the total medium and small enterprises are having this less turnover. So they would benefit from this reduction in corporate tax rate for them. So they have also been affected drastically because of demonetization. So this adverse effect would also be compensated for through this less taxation. Then next is regarding the indirect tax. So indirect taxes have also not been changed majorly. Only change which has been done is increasing the tax rate on sin goods. Sin goods are goods which are not considered good for consumption, for the health, for the society. So these like smoking, consuming tobacco products, so they have their taxation rates have increased, and others have not changed drastically because anyway goods and services tax would be implemented from 1st July 2017. So that would be subsuming all the tax rates, and the GST Council has finalized the taxation rates. Then next is increase in allocation for social sector programs have been there. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme has seen an increase too. So increased allocation has been there. Then affordable housing has been granted infrastructure status. So this infrastructure status would result in it being eligible for many government taxes and subsidy incentives which are provided. Funding at affordable rates would become possible. The next is a cap of 3 lakh on cash transactions. Means you cannot have a cash transaction of more than rupees 3 lakh. You cannot take and receive from anybody. If you do, then there will be a penalty of 100% too. Means as much amount as has been paid in cash has to be paid as a penalty as well. So this has been a measure brought in to bring in anti-corruption, to tackle corruption as such. So it should be in check in digital payment that it will be allowed, so that it comes in the records. The next is that in cash donations to political parties. So up to 20,000 cash donations were allowed to political parties, wherein the sources would be unknown. Who has provided that money, there is no record placed. But then now that has been slashed down to 2,000 rupees. So per individual, a maximum cash donation which can be made is rupees 2,000. So this, it says, will bring in transparency in electoral funding. But then many political parties, we saw in our discussion an RTI which was placed by the Hindu newspaper, and a report which came up on it, it showed that BSP and many political parties have a major part of their funding from unknown sources, because funding is in less than rupees 20,000 or up to rupees 20,000. So in such cases, the source is not known. So BSP had claimed 100% unknown sources, means no donation has been made more than rupees 20,000. So it would now be 2,000 terms. So how effective the measure would be is another matter. Also, it has called for electoral bonds. So these electoral bonds will be issued by a bank, and these can be paid only in digital mode or in checks. So there will be no cash allowed for electoral bonds. So there will be clear indication of who is buying this bond. But these electoral bonds can be used to pay to the political party. So direct naming of the source would not be there. So this measure has been brought in because various people would not want the affiliation to a particular political party coming in the open. So this is to facilitate that. But also the editorial in the Hindu newspaper discusses that why is there a need to keep the affiliation hidden? Why this purpose has to be served? Rather, there should be complete transparency. Means it is generally corporates which support political parties. So which corporates are supporting which political parties? Where do they make these payments? There should be transparency. Why to hide transparency, and why to have this scheme of electoral bonds? But it is funding coming to the political parties. They would make provisions that maximum funds come to them. So if people don't want transparency, don't want to reveal the affiliation, these are the provisions made for them. But then again, another matter is that these are the sources which are declared. Much of it is also not declared. So there's huge amount of corruption in political parties funding. So that is true. How effective these measures would be is another matter. Then another point is steps have been announced to cut the cost of digital payments. So that has taken place. MCR and other provisions were there. MDR, merchant discount rates have been reduced. Plus also businesses have been asked that more than 10,000 rupees, if it is paid in cash, that it cannot be used in income tax listing as a payment done in, or received for business purposes. So that payment in cash is highly discouraged by these measures. Then another point is that a tough law, it says, the budget says, will be brought to deal with big time offenders, including economic offenders fleeing the country, also indicating towards Vijay Mallya. So they try to escape the reach of law. So confiscation of the assets, legal changes would be made to do that, but then such provisions are already there. So let's see. So budget theme for this year was transform, energize and clean India. Then the next provision is with respect to bad bank for non-performing assets, which was recommended by the economic survey. So that is not mentioned in the budget as such. So that was PARA. If you remember, we discussed economic survey. So that was Public Asset Reconstruction Association. So this has no mention here. But then with respect to non-performing assets for banks, the banks have been permitted to claim higher provisions for non-performing assets. So maximum NPAs which could be claimed was 8.5%. So now this has been increased to 9.5%. So non-performing assets are those loans which have been provided by the banks for which the interest is not being paid for more than 3 months, and the asset means completely neither the interest is coming forth nor the principal amount. So these can be claimed up to 9.5% now. So that is some relief given to banks. Then also recapitalization of banks has been put forth, that is 10,000 crore would be infused in banks to recapitalize them, because non-performing assets has an adverse effect on their balance sheets. So that is there. A tax on interest receivables on actual basis would take place rather than accrual basis. So accrual basis means that when interest is due, it is put into the balance sheet, and when in actual basis, when it actually comes forth, the interest amount is paid, then it is put into the balance sheet. So now they say that interest receivables on actual basis would take place. So that is also beneficial for the banks. The next is the government has said in the budget it aims to double the farmers' income by 2022. Now, how would this come forth is not discussed in detail. Next is government proposes to extend Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras. So there are 60 districts which have such kendras. Now it will be extended to more than 600 districts. So this is Kaushal, means creating skills kendras. So this will help in creating skills, making youths employable. And the last one major provision in the budget, of course, we'll discuss all the entire sectors which have been brought out in the budget and affected by the budget in detail. But one major last provision is that dubious schemes like Ponzi scheme launched by individuals and some funds using the gaps, regulatory gaps in cooperatives. This is Multi-State Cooperative Act. So this would be gaps would be filled, that is amendment would be brought in so that such Ponzi schemes cannot function. Ponzi schemes we have discussed earlier. It means a scheme which is launched in the sense that you make a payment, say small payments are also accepted. So this chit funds kind of scheme. So in this you pay say 100 rupees. So all of them are not dubious schemes, but those which are called Ponzi schemes. So what they do is they take money from all. So you say you pay 100 rupees and in a month you would get 50 rupees as interest, and your principal amount is also there with the scheme, and you will get such payments done monthly or so, or annually, whatever it may be. So it does these payments. So you pay 100 every month, you're getting 50. So that is in 2 months only you have recovered your 100 rupees. So people are attracted to it. So it gives drastically high. This is maybe too much high, but they give very good returns. So that is why people are attracted to it, and they allow small amounts to come in too. So when small amounts are put in and people get good returns, they are making others also aware of it, and a huge number of people start investing in these schemes. Plus they also themselves start investing more amount into it lured by the high returns which they are getting. But what this scheme is actually doing, the money which comes in, they're not investing in some constructive purpose as such, which would be a business or something which would result in money accumulating or profits coming in, and that profit is being distributed amongst the investors. That is not taking place. What this scheme actually does is it repays these people with the help of money which others are paying. So the same fund, nothing is happening to the fund, it is not invested, it is just returned back to the people. So people get high returns and they feel this is a scheme which is working, but it does not have a long life. So eventually it will fall out. The person then stops paying and runs away with all the money which has been accumulated. So such schemes are called Ponzi schemes. So these are many such schemes have come out in the open. So that is why to safeguard people from this, regulatory gaps of cooperatives have to be filled, and that is why these amendments have been proposed in the budget. These are the income tax slabs you can see. So earlier it was this category up to 5 lakh had 10% interest. Now this is at 5%. So there is no 10% interest rate of taxation rate. 10% taxation rate. So now it would be 5% taxation as such. So you can see general category. For senior citizens, means 60 to 80 years, up to 3 lakh, there is no income tax to be paid. There up to 2.5 lakh. For very senior citizens, up to 5 lakh, no income tax has to be And for male female there was a distinction earlier, but this is earlier only this has been eliminated. So for general category, all non-senior citizens have the same taxation rates. Now coming to the articles which have come forth on the budget. So all of them are being discussed. First of all, what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to say regarding the budget, he says that this is focusing on fulfilling the dreams of every section, including the poor, farmers and underprivileged. He said now future stands for, he has given this acronym future as F is for farmers, U for underprivileged, including Dalits oppressed, T is for transparency, technology upgradation. U is for urban rejuvenation, urban development, R is for rural development, and E is for employment for youth, entrepreneurship, enhancement of new employments for youth entrepreneurs. So this is future according to Prime Minister Narendra Modi now. Then about the ceilings on cash donations to political parties, which we discussed. So this has been the recommendation of Election Commission that this to 20,000 cash limit should be brought down to 2,000. So that is what the budget has done. So other payments can be done, higher payments can be done by check or digital mode. So that is there. So what the budget is trying to say, or finance minister is trying to say, that what we are attracting is mass donation, that people should pay smaller amounts in large numbers. Many people should come in and donate rather than some major corporate houses donating huge amounts. So that is what is being intended to achieve. How would that be possible? That is another matter. Then next is, it says that a donor will get a deduction tax benefit. So there is complete tax benefit. The recipient, also political parties, are completely exempt from taxation. So whatever be the amount of donation which they get, there is 100% tax exemption. They have to pay no taxes. And the donor also get tax benefits. So that will continue. Then regarding the electoral bonds, so RBI Act would be amended so that these electoral bonds can be brought in. So this will be issued by a notified bank. So these electoral bonds can be bought by any donor. So they buy these from the banks by digital payments or check only, no cash allowed. Then they can give these bonds to the political parties, which can be redeemed within a particular time span. So that will be helping in the political parties receiving donations too, and people who want to keep their identity secret will also be achieved. So electoral bonds means 20,000 plus you want to make any amount of donation, you can do it through electoral bonds. Then the next article is infra status to boost low-cost housing. So affordable housing has been given infrastructure status. So this will have some benefits. The tax and subsidies which are provided, incentives which are provided by the government would be available for the low-cost housing as well. So this also another provision is that the condition of period of completion of the project has been eased. There was earlier period of completion should be 3 years. Now period of completion of the project has been extended to 5 years. So that is another benefit provided to affordable housing. Then next is the carpet area. So the norms, measurement norms for affordable housing has been amended to carpet area rather than the built up area. So what is this carpet area and built up area? We'll just look at it. So this you can see in the real estate. Carpet area is internal wall to wall area of the flat. So this carpet area value will be less. Built up area will be including the carpet area and the thickness of the walls, balconies, ducts, that is also included. So that is built up area. Super built up area is 25% generally more than built up area. So it includes common areas such as lobby. So that is also taken into consideration. Staircase area also included in the calculations. Lift area, playground, corridor, clubhouse, everything is included. So that is super built up area. So when you're buying, at what rate you have to pay, that is the builder would take maximum area and ask you to pay charges. And in case of benefits which the government is giving, it says that the measurement norm would be carpet area and not built up area. So earlier it was built up area, so carpet area is smaller. So they will have to, even if carpet area suffices these conditions, then it would be available, it would become under affordable housing. So criteria, the measurement norm for affordable housing, whether it is affordable housing or not, is carpet area. So this carpet area would be considered, built up area is more. So the measurement up to which housing is considered affordable housing is 60 square meters. So if carpet area is 60 square meters, then it will be considered affordable housing from now on. And there is a limit of 30 square meters, which must lesser carpet area limit for affordable housing in cases of 4 metropolitan cities within their municipal limits, that is Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai and Kolkata. So there is a more stringent limit on affordable houses. The next provision is with respect to National Housing Bank. So it will provide for refinancing individual housing loans to up to rupees 20,000 crore has been allocated for that. So that will be a benefit for housing loans. Then holding period for considering gains from immovable property has been reduced now. Earlier it was 3 years, now it has been reduced to 2 years. So if you're holding it, then you have to pay capital gains tax. Then the base year for indexation for all classes of assets, including immovable properties, has been changed. So base year earlier was 1981, now it has changed to 2001. So this, it says this will reduce the capital gains tax liability while encouraging mobility of assets. So liability would decrease because based on this indexation, the value was high. Now base year has come to 2001. Then the next article is 5 special zones to boost tourism travel in the country. So there are 5 special tourism zones which will be set up with the partnership with the states. There has been no more details on it that which states would come into partnership and where will these 5 special tourism zones be, but SPVs will be established for their functioning. Then Incredible India 2 campaign would be unveiled in this financial year all across the world to promote tourism to India. Then Railways has been asked to start dedicated trains for tourism and pilgrimage purposes. And then 2 major schemes of the government. One is Swadesh Darshan scheme. So this is integrated development of tourism circuits across specific themes. So these Swadesh Darshan schemes, 13 thematic circuits have been identified for development and money allocated for them. So these are listed as such. Then the next is Prasad. So for this scheme also again allocation has been made further. That is pilgrimage, rejuvenation and spiritual augmentation drive. 13 cities have been identified for development under Prasad. So these are those. Then, so even Prasad cities are shown in this map. Then withdrawing of service charges on railway tickets booked from IRCT website. So there will be no service charges imposed because online transactions have to be encouraged. So that is why service charges would be no longer have to be paid. Then DigiGaos, digital villages would be started. So this will facilitate employment and augmenting transactions via Bhim app. So this will also be an initiative taken, DigiGaos. So these are the cities, Prasad cities, which have been identified for development. The next article is cooperative banks to reap huge benefits. So benefits which the scheduled banks enjoy have been extended to cooperative banks also now. So the non-performing assets, the calculation for these non-performing assets we discussed will be done on actual basis and not on accrual basis. So what is accrual basis basically in accounting is that the amount would be put into the accounting system in accounts when it is due. So means if an amount is due for this particular month, for this particular financial year, it would be included. Even though the payment due has not come, it came in the next phase, next period, but yet it would be put into the account when it is due. So this non-performing assets, there are no payments coming in and still they are due and they are put into the accounting system, then the accounts, balancing of accounts becomes very difficult. They show negative aspect there for the banks. So when this accrual basis is not used and actual basis is used, means only when the amount comes in it is put, then that results in banks having their balance sheets and the accounting system more favorable to them. So that is why this accrual basis has been eliminated and actual basis would be used for accounting for NPS. That has been extended to cooperative banks too now. So this one thing is there. Then even the allowable provision for NPS. So there is a provision made for NPS for all banks. So for banks we saw it has been increased from 8.5% to 9.5%, and now this has been extended to cooperative banks too. It has been increased again 1 percentage point from 7.5% to 8.5%. So these changes have been made for them. Also concessional withholding tax rate which is there, that has also been extended to interest earned by specified foreign entities issued for external commercial borrowings or government bonds. G-Secs are government securities, government bonds, masala bonds. So for all these also withholding tax rate has been at a concessional rate of 5%. So what is this withholding tax and what are these various bonds? We'll just see that. So withholding tax basically a tax which is paid in advance. So that is withheld. Means when the transaction has been made, there is a tax which will become due. So that amount is withheld. So there is a rate at which it is withheld. Then finally, when the taxation is filed for the annual financial year, then at that time, whatever is due, if the withholding tax was in excess, then refund would be provided. If it is less, then additional tax has to be paid. So this withholding tax results in government getting that taxation amount in advance only whenever the transaction is made. So this generally when interest payment take place, or with respect to sale of securities, etc. So in these cases, withholding tax is deducted. So this is the concessional tax rate which has been extended for government securities. So government securities are sovereign debt obligations. So government is providing a security. So it's considered as a paper which is sold off. So the banks actually can buy these securities, and they have, so that is money coming into the government's exchequer funding, and the banks holding these government securities in which they will get assured interest and the capital amount and the principal amount back to. So these are government securities. So that is like various forms can be like central government, state government securities, treasury bills. So these are guaranteed by the government. Then masala bonds. What are masala bonds? So these are Indian rupee denominated bonds issued in offshore capital markets. Means in capital markets, not in India but outside. So these bonds, they're termed masala bonds because India is known for masala. So this is the recognition that these are bonds which are denominated in Indian currency, Indian rupees. So that means that the settlement of these bonds would be done in US dollars only. So Indian rupees are raised using US dollars. So these have been endorsed by World Bank too. International Finance Corporation, IFC, has named them as masala bonds. So this amount which is collected from international investors in US dollars is then converted into rupees and provided for financing infrastructure development in India. So proceeds from dollars are converted into rupee by IFC, you can see. And this rupee is used to finance the investment in India. So this is, it says, see, IFC has named them masala bonds as masala is a globally recognized term that evokes the culture and cuisine of India. So that is just the name given. So this is there, like Chinese bonds are called dim sum bonds, Japanese bonds are called samurai bonds. So these are just the names given to the bonds to show that which country do they belong to, that kind of idea. Then the next news item is payment boards may get an MPC lookalike. So Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, was established. It's a 6-member board with 3 members coming from RBI, 3 members coming from the government side. RBI governor is the chairman of this committee. So this is being set up for determining the rate of interest. So interest rate is fixed by it, repo rate, and it has to be fixed in such a way that inflation rate is kept in the range of 4% plus minus 2%. Means 2% to 6% band. So target is 4% with a range given above and below. So with this objective, monetary policy has to be determined. The rate of interest means repo rate basically essentially has to be determined. So earlier it was done only by the RBI. Now RBI and government working together through this monetary policy committees. This has happened since last year only, that they have started functioning on these lines. So decision would be by a majority vote. RBI governor is one of the 3 members from RBI side. So he will get a casting vote, and at least 4 members should be there for quorum. So out of 6, 4 should be present. So this is Monetary Policy Committee. The news is that what has been announced in the budget also is that payment board will be set up, payment regulatory board within the RBI, which will again comprise of 6 members, 3 from RBI, 3 from the government, something like Monetary Policy Committee. The purpose of this board is regulation of payment systems. So payment systems, again, there was a committee set up, Committee on Digital Payments, headed by Finance Secretary Ratan Vatal. So this is also called Vatal Committee. So it had recommended an independent body, independent of RBI. So regulation of bank systems and the payment systems is also presently done by RBI. So it was demanding, a recommendation put forth by this committee was that a separate payment regulatory board be set up for retail payments, for strategically important capital payments. It can be the RBI, but retail payments, there should be a separate board. But then RBI protested against this, that it cannot be separated. It has to be within RBI. So the government has set up this committee within RBI only. So this board, payment regulatory board, will be set up within RBI. So again, same feature, composition would be similar to Monetary Policy Committee. So that has been announced. Then the next news item is foreign investors get clarity on tax. So foreign portfolio investors, FPIs, who invest in stocks, so they will not have to pay tax in India for assets which are sold overseas, even if the underlying value is derived from Indian assets. So this has been clarified in the present budget, because an amendment was done as such to the Income Tax Act, and it had resulted in ambiguity because FPIs felt that they were subjected to tax if funds are sold overseas with underlying shares held in Indian companies. So this was basically amendment to the Income Tax Act was done in 2012, targeting the Vodafone Hutchison SR deal. So in this, the transaction was done abroad, but the companies were based in India. But then for the FPIs, it will not apply. That has been clarified in this present budget. So these are FIIs. FIIs coming to India. So for them, it does not apply. This was an FDI. Then investors to get more choice with government ETF. So exchange traded fund would be established, which will have shares of public sector enterprises. So these will give people more option in investing in government sector. So these exchange traded funds will have diversified holdings from various public sector enterprises. It can be sold at net asset value and it will be publicly available. So this is how disinvestment in public sector enterprises would take place, by sale of shares of these PSUs. So this will encourage disinvestment of individual assets also, means land, manufacturing units, etc., which these PSUs hold. They can also be sold off through this system. So this is exchange traded fund. So you can see this is the stock, means shares, so traded during the day. Stocks, shares are traded. Mutual funds, these are diversified instruments through which again trading takes place, investment takes place. And ETFs are somewhere in between, having features similar to the two. So these are diversified funds that trade like stocks. So they are funds but traded like stocks. So this Department of Disinvestment, how disinvestment can take place. So this is the route which has been decided. So this will be used as a vehicle for further disinvestment. Even Niti Aayog is said it will decide and identify which central public sector enterprises should go for strategic sale to. So strategic sale means sale in which the government being a majority stakeholder will no longer be the case. So it will reduce its strategic holding. So if you are 50% plus holding, means you are having a major say in the decisions taken in the PSU. But when your strategic holding reduces to less than 50%, then that aspect goes. So that is called strategic sale, strategic disinvestment. So this is the development. Department of Disinvestment has also been renamed Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. So this is how public sector enterprises assets would be managed now, with the objective of disinvestment. Then next is Center to push connectivity to aid digital life. So again, in the budget, allocation has been made for BharatNet project. So BharatNet project is an initiative to provide broadband connectivity to over 2 lakh gram panchayats in the country. So this was at an initial cost of 10,000 crore, which has been extended further now. So another 10,000 crore have been provided in the present budget. So this is formerly BharatNet project was called NOFN, National Optical Fiber Network. So this has been renamed BharatNet now. So also another proposal in the budget is establishing Computer Emergency Response Team for Financial Sector. So CRT-FIN will be established. So this is also a proposal to promote or to regulate digital payments as such and frauds in these. So this is the BharatNet project regarding it to providing broadband connectivity. So it will be funded. Generally, the funding is through USOF, Universal Service Obligation Fund of the telecom in the sector as such. So that is a fee which is charged USOF. So it goes into this Universal Service Obligation Fund, the user fee charge. So this is used for providing connectivity to rural areas. Then next news item is Center to phase out 2-decade-old FIPB. So Foreign Investment Promotion Board was established in 1993 when economic liberalization took place. So foreign investments were made open. India was made open to foreign investment. So FDI came into India, but then FDI was through two routes. One was automatic route and another one was approval route, prior approval. So automatic route means FDI could come directly into India, and prior approval means it had to be screened through this Foreign Investment Promotion Board. So this was a single window clearance given for foreign investors in the sectors which were through investment could be done only through approval route. So presently more of liberalization has taken place, and today more than 90% of total FDI flow is through automatic route. So if the budget says and the government says that FIPB has now become redundant, there is no need for this body, so it will be phased out in 2017-18. So that has been a decision taken by the government and announced in the budget. The next is center to list 3 railway public sector enterprises. So these 3 enterprises are e-ticketing outfit, IRCTC, finance outfit, Indian Railway Finance Corporation, consultancy arm, IRCON. So these 3 public sector enterprises of the railways would be listed on the stock exchange. So this has also been announced by the government. So they plan to have consolidation, mergers and acquisitions taking place to strengthen the companies. Then the next news item is public-private partnerships in focus. So here the Metro Rail Act is planned to be rationalized. So this will be helping in bringing in more public-private partnerships. So airports should also be operational maintenance of airports also in PPP mode. Public-private partnership mode would be encouraged. So infrastructure projects would be developed in PPP mode is being highlighted. Then the next news item is infrastructure gets a major boost. So this is the 5th component, it says, in the 10-point package which has been provided by the government to transform, energize and cleanse India in the present budget. So a push to infrastructure would be given. So allocation has been expanded for it. Plus also bulk of the expenditure would be for transport in rail, roads and shipping. Sagarmala project has also seen a hike in allocation. So this Sagarmala project is a project of the government for modernization of the ports. All major and minor ports would be upgraded. Efficient connectivity will also be provided through it. So means from the ports to the interior hinterland, it would be through rail, road and coastal network. So those would also be developed under this, and coastal economic development, coastal economic zones would also be established. So these port-based SEZs would be established. Coastal tourism would also be enhanced. So this is the complete Sagarmala project which has been unveiled. So there are 12 ports that will be developed under this. So these are the major ports. You can see the details provided here. Major, minor ports also. So there are 200 small and big ports total, out of which 12 are centrally operated ports, major ports. 6 are state operated ports, and other minor ports are also there. Then the next news item is government to assess learning outcomes in schools. So the budget has also announced that a method would be devised to measure annual learning outcomes of children at school. So this would be put into effect, giving emphasis on science education too, and a flexibility would also be provided in curriculum so that creativity and local innovation content is also inculcated. An innovation fund for secondary education would also be created. So this will also encourage local innovation, ensuring universal access, gender parity and quality improvement. So these are some initiatives for the education sector. Even information and communication technology, ICT enabled learning transformation is also being included under this. So fund would be established here. The next is institutional autonomy linked to ranking. So this is for higher education institutions. So center plans to link the administrative and academic autonomy of these institutions to their performance. So ranking, outcome based accreditation and credit based program would be devised. So a revised framework would be there for autonomy for these higher educational institutions. Then budget to have major ramification on skilling. So this we already saw for Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendras. They would be extended from 60 districts to 600 districts now. So these are skilling infrastructure benchmarks. Then also another program is Sankalp, which has been established to provide market relevant training to youth. So this is a 4,000 crore program announced, Sankalp. Then another one is Strive. So next phase of Strive would also be initiated. So this is skill strengthening for industrial value enhancement. So these are skill development programs, 3 programs which have been launched. This is a new one. This has been extended, and this also a next phase would be initiated. So this focuses on improving the quality and market relevance of vocational training provided in information technology institutions and apprenticeship program through industry cluster approach. So this is for vocational training, Strive. So these are the programs for Skill India. The next is Farm sector gets more crop insurance raised. So for the farm sector, the forecast has been made that agriculture will grow at 4.1% in the current year as well. And the government says that we will continue to keep our last year's promise that farming income will be doubled in 5 years. So this will also be worked towards. How is not detailed out. Fasal Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which covered 30% of cropped area, has been extended. So there's further coverage being done. Now 40% will be covered in 2017-18, and by 18-19 it will be half the country which will be eligible under Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. An irrigation fund has been planned to be set up under NABARD, National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development. So this dedicated irrigation fund would be established, and ENAM, National Agricultural Market, would be expanded further. So currently it has 250 markets under it. It would be extended to around 585 APMCs, and Dairy Processing and Infrastructure Development Fund, which would be set up in NABARD, will also get a huge corpus for 3 years. This is regarding the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So this is a new scheme. So it is providing a capping on premium so that farmers can get full sum insured as well. So how much premium do they have to pay, decided by this, and actual finding out about the crop losses or insurance would be given only when there are losses incurred. So these losses, whether they have been incurred or not, this will be done through using smart technology. Even using satellite, remote sensing, mobile phones, etc. would be used for quick estimation and early settlement of claims. So farmers' contribution to premium has been reduced significantly. Government's contribution would also be their part of this. And also post-harvest risks, other losses have also been taken into account so that farmers will not be under distress in any case. So this was the Fasal Bima Yojana launched. So again, allocation has been made, expansion has been done in provision for this Yojana in more districts, more areas in the country. Then Rural Employment Scheme gets highest ever funding. So this is MGNREGS, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, for which provision has been made further. So this is the maximum highest provision which has been made so far in the history of this scheme. So this scheme was launched in 2005. It was UPA government's flagship program. So it provides livelihood security to rural people. So it guarantees 100 days of wages in a financial year for adults willing to take up unskilled manual work. And assets are developed. So various assets are developed and people manually work for this, and they are ensured wages against that. Even if they have not allocated the work, then unemployment allowance, that kind of payment is also done to them. So this scheme earlier was called UPS failure, living monument of UPS failure by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But now highest ever allocation of 48,000 crore has been made to this scheme in 2017-18 budget. Also, another initiative which has been put forth is that there will be geotagging of all MGNREG assets. So what assets are being created, there will be geotag, so that clear understanding of how funds are being dispensed, how assets are being developed can be understood. So this also an agreement with National Remote Sensing Center would be coming forth with the Rural Development Ministry so that geotagging of assets can take place. Also, the Bhuvan web-based application developed by ISRO will give which gives a three-dimensional map of the globe. This will also be included under MGNREGA digital scrutiny. So that is there. So what is geotagging? This also we have done earlier. So this helps in locating the asset. Where is the location, physical location of the asset, and the status as such, development status. So this can be possible through geotagging. So using technology. Assets which are created through MGNREGA are majorly like water harvesting, rainwater harvesting assets, drought relief initiatives taken, flood control programs. So these are the assets which are generated through MGNREGA majorly. So it can be any rural infrastructure asset also that can be created. Then for drinking water too, a submission has been launched. So that is 28,000 arsenic and fluoride affected habitations will be provided safe drinking water in 4 years. So this is a drinking water scheme announced. The next news is marginal increase in health funding, unrealistic targets ahead. So government plans that Kala-Azar and filariasis will be eliminated by 2017, leprosy would be eliminated by 2018, and measles by 2020. Tuberculosis will be eliminated by 2025. So all these diseases will be eliminated from India, but how this will be achieved is not there. So the action plan as such of how this will take place has not come forth yet. World Health Organization estimates had revealed that India will not be on track to eliminate TB even by 2050, and our target here is 2025. So how will this be achieved? We'll have to see. AIIMS-like institutions, already there are 18 such institutions established. 2 more have been planned to be set up now. Then the Janani Suraksha Yojana. So this was conditional cash transfer scheme already in place, and Prime Minister on the eve of New Year had announced another cash transfer scheme for pregnant women. So 6,000 each will be transferred directly to the bank accounts of pregnant women who undergo institutional delivery and vaccinate their children. So this scheme will also be funded through the budget. So that is that. Then next news item is state-run oil firm to take on global majors. So Finance Minister in his budget has said that we are planning to create an integrated public sector oil major. So we have many oil PSUs, oil sector PSUs too, like oil majors in upstream. So upstream is oil extraction, and on those aspects, the upstream companies are ONGC, OIL and GAIL. And downstream means then distribution. In that aspect, downstream oil majors are HPCL, BPCL and Indian Oil. So they are focusing on downstream operations, refining petroleum, marketing it as such. So these upstream and downstream, there are various companies, public sector, private sector enterprises, plus they are also having their segregated functioning. So if all these are integrated, it would become a huge one major public sector oil major. So globally too, we see that oil majors have integrated operations working across upstream and downstream operations like ExxonMobil, British Petroleum, Royal Dutch Shell. So all these we are not in competition with this. So if we have an integrated major public sector oil company, then we will be in competition with them. So it will also help the oil PSUs in bearing higher risks, avail economies of scale, take higher investment decisions, create more value for stakeholders. So taking all this into consideration, an integrated public sector oil major would be established, has been proposed in the budget. The next is thrust on Make in India and digitization. So all duties on miniaturized POS, point of sale card readers, mobile POS, not including mobile and tablet computers, micro ATMs, conforming to standard version, fingerprint reader, scanner, iris scanner, for all them duties have been waived. So there will be no duties on them. Then even the parts and components used in their manufacture will not attract basic custom duty and countervailing duty as such. So these have been proposed to promote digitization and this equipments which are needed for it. Then allocation for defense sector increased marginally. So allocation for defense sector has not seen a major increase. One rank, one pension scheme, which has been implemented since 2016. So OROP, one rank, one pension, was that all those people who retire, defense personnel who retire at the same rank should get the same pension. So the case was that person at one particular rank only, based on the year of his retirement, he was getting the pension, because pension rates are revised every time with pay commissions. So they come into effect from the year when they are revised. That going behind does not take place. Means an old defense personnel, retired defense personnel, is getting the pension during his time. So that continues to be at that rate, and a person who has just retired at the same rank, so that person would be getting pension at a much higher rate. So this differentiation was there. So that is why it was demanded at one rank, all those people in this particular point of time who are at the same rank, that had retired at the same rank, should get the same pension. So of course it would be a huge burden on the government, but then there were huge protests, and finally even BJP, when it was not in power, UPA was in power, they had also been with the defense personnel demanding and working towards the same thing. Now coming in power, they had to implement this, and this has been implemented in 2016. So an allocation has been done for this also, for payment of pensions too, but then huge acquisitions which the defense is planning to make, defense sector, for that allocation has not been to that same scale. So how would that take place is a question which experts are raising. Then safety comes first. E-tickets gain traction. So railway budget has been a part of the present budget only. So it was 12 points on railway budget which were part of the main budget. So here the government said that the emphasis is on synergizing the investments in railways, roads, waterways and civil aviation. So all three could be synergized and effectively used. So focus, it says, is improving rail safety, pushing digital transactions, Listing railway public sector units, we saw 3 PSUs would be listed on the stock exchanges. Then setting competitive rail fares. So passenger fares have to be competitive too, considering social obligation too and the costs incurred. The rail fares have to be decided. Then focus area for Indian Railways, it says there are 4 focus areas. These are passenger safety, capital and development works, cleanliness, and finance and accounting reforms. So here too again the provisions which have been made is for passenger safety. First and foremost, Rashtriya Rail Sanraksha Kosh, which was recommended by Anil Kakodkar Committee on Railway Safety too, that he had said that it would require 1 lakh crore rupees, and in a period of 5 years these changes could be brought in, eliminating level crossings, then about LHB coaches being part of the entire railway infrastructure to be completely included, then even the advanced signaling system of the European format that has to be included. So all these equipments which have to be brought in will be possible only through this funding, through this Rashtriya Rail Sanraksha Kosh. Kosh means fund. So these are important to ensure that these rail accidents which take place do not take place in the future. So for that budgetary allocation has been done presently. So, and the balance fund, it says that how much has been given is 5,000 crore right now has been given for 2017-18. Remaining, it says balance the railway should fund from its own resources. Then next is regarding e-tickets. So e-tickets, we already saw service charge has been withdrawn. Even with respect to e-tickets, it says that 68% of rail tickets are booked through IRCTC online. So IRCTC is Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation. So here this is there. Then 3 PSUs, railway PSUs will be listed. Then new formula for setting of passenger and commodity fares. So it says that the passenger fares have to be fixed, taking into consideration the costs, quality of service provided, social obligation, and competition from other forms of transport. Then cleanliness, for that bio toilets will be provided in all coaches, railway coaches by 2019. That is sanitation measure. Then also solar power plant for railway stations have been put forth a plan for that too. Then even biodegradable waste management, solid waste disposal plants will also be established in railway stations in Jaipur and New Delhi. So this has been put forth along with 5 more stations where these biodegradable waste to energy plants will be established. Then it talks of operating ratio. So operating ratio of Indian Railways determines the financial performance of the body. So a lower ratio means better efficiency. Means the operating ratio presently is 94.9% in 2016-17. So this means that for every 1 rupee invested, 94.9 rupees are spent. So this means that for gaining 1 rupee means the profit is only the remainder. So if the remainder, the lower the ratio, better the efficiency. So that's the idea. So to railway spends 94.9 paise to earn a rupee. So remainder is actually the profit. So that is there. So it was 90.5% in the previous year and it has shot up presently because of implementation of the recommendations of 7th Pay Commission. Because railways is also the largest employer in the country. So the huge amount of payments which would go in hike in wages has resulted in operating ratio being shooting up too. Then the next news item is experts say budget has ignored green agenda. So this, it says that provisions have been made with respect to green technology. The setting up of 20,000 megawatts of solar power generation capacity has been provided for. Lower import duty on LNG has been brought in. But then no allocation has been made for renewable energy, energy efficiency, carbon sequestration through forestry. So these have all been missing in the budget. So that has been highlighted by environmentalists. So carbon sequestration basically is that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is absorbed in. So carbon sequestration through forest means afforestation. So through afforestation, through process of synthesis, carbon dioxide is absorbed. So that is called carbon sequestration through forestry. So you can see here, dead leaves, branches and roots containing carbon are buried in the soil, which is frequently, if not always, covered with tidal waters. So this oxygen poor environment causes slow breakdown of the plant material, resulting in significant carbon storage. So here you can see carbon storage also takes place. So this is also carbon storage is there, which is carbon sequestration. Then boost to Nirbhaya Fund. So Nirbhaya Fund, which was established and under the Delhi police to strengthen women's security, a 9 times hike has been provided in the present budget for this. So women helplines, mobile apps will be further modernized to reach out to women in distress at the earliest. So this is about the budget. The gist of the budget is provided here. You can go through this as well. Then the next are the other news items for the day. So this one is pandemonium in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly over Article 370. So there are demands on Article 370 to be abolished. So Article 370 gives special constitutional status to Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir legislature saw the adjournment of both the houses. So this happened because the legislators of the ruling party and the opposition were hurling furnitures at each other also on this issue. So it was basically 2 days ago, Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti of Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir party, PDP, the political party to which she belongs, People's Democratic Party, along with BJP, are in coalition and in power in Jammu and Kashmir. So she had said that those who are opposing Article 370 are anti-nationals. So this had resulted in furor in BJP. So BJP is demanding opposing Article 370 as such. So she was calling, it was clarified that no BJP member or leader as such was called anti-national. But then her remarks, they say, have to be examined as such. So they are in ruling coalition, and this resulted in a huge furor in the legislature as well, because opposition again is against the party in power, that because it's a difficult alliance, because both have different viewpoints, PDP and BJP, and still they are together in coalition governing the state. So this is regarding Article 370 of the Constitution too. So Article 370 was included in the Indian Constitution because of the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir Maharaja, the last Maharaja Hari Singh, he hurriedly signed an instrument of accession with India because Pakistan forces had entered into Jammu and Kashmir. That is the reason why POK is presently with Pakistan forces. So this instrument of accession provided that except for defense, foreign affairs, finance and communication, all other laws which are passed by the Indian Parliament need to be okayed by the state government before they are made applicable to the state. So this same provision is there in Article 370. So Article 370 gives special provisions to Jammu and Kashmir as was desired. It was said that later a referendum would be conducted in Jammu and Kashmir, and based on the result of the referendum, Jammu and Kashmir would be acceded either to India or to Pakistan. But nothing as such took place, and that is why the status quo still remains. So Article 370 allows for Jammu and Kashmir to have its own state constitution. Jammu and Kashmir is the only state in India where there is state citizenship as well. There is restriction on purchase of land as well. So outsiders cannot purchase land in Jammu and Kashmir. So some special provisions have been provided for in Jammu and Kashmir. Then the next news item is steps to block sexual videos on social media. So the Supreme Court is looking into this matter, and Center has told Supreme Court that budgetary allocation has been made to set up a specialized central institutional mechanism to block and curb sharing of sexually offensive videos on social networking sites. So this is to check cybercrime. So internet majors which are there like Google India, Microsoft India, Yahoo India, Facebook, they were issued notices by the Supreme Court, but then in reply they said that it is not possible for them to auto block such content. So that is why now central government is making budgetary allocations to curb such offensive videos. Then the next news item is lost continent lies under Indian Ocean. So scientists have confirmed that there is a lost continent under the Indian Ocean island of Mauritius that was left over by the breakup of the continent. So Gondwana land breakup took place Australia. It was Australasia. So Australia, Asia separated, India separated, and Mauritius also became a separate island. Madagascar was again a break-off island. So at this point of time, there was a lost continent too, which is under Mauritius presently. So scientists have evidence for this by studying zircons. So zircons are rocks found when volcanic eruptions take place. These rocks which come out, they have been studied, and it is found that the minerals which are there in these rocks, zircons, so these zircons basically are minerals which come out during volcanic eruptions. So they are mainly granite as such. So they contain trace amounts of uranium, thorium and lead also. But then when the dating is done, it is seen that they are much older than the continent Mauritius, the study of the age of Mauritius as such. So this shows that below Mauritius there is an old continent too. So that is the lost continent too. So this has been inferred from this zircon study. Then the last news item is eating lychees and skipping meals kills children in Bihar. So this is an unexplained illness which has resulted in deaths of children aged 15 years and younger in Muzaffarpur in Bihar during the summers. So in summers it is seen that children, they consume lychee fruit, which is generally there in summers, grows in summer. So they consume this and they skip the evening meals. So because of this, the blood glucose levels go very low and acute encephalopathy can take place where brain functioning suffers. So this has resulted in death in many cases also. So it is seen that in lychee fruit there are naturally present toxins, hypoglycin A and MCPG. So these block enzymes that are involved in glucose metabolism. So this glucose metabolism does not take place, and inability to synthesize glucose leads to very low blood sugar levels, and then the brain functioning also suffers and death may also take place. So it says that these toxins are also twice the amount in unripe fruit compared with ripe fruit. So this being consumed without consumption of evening meal makes the glucose levels go very down. So this is a study which has been done by researchers from US and India together. You can see this is the cause. So increase in toxins in blood results in toxin affecting the heart and the brain too, and in acute cases, if it becomes chronic, it may result in death also. So these are the news items. Thank you.